IT News is launching the 2025 State of Data and AI report this Thursday, 10th of July, at a breakfast event for senior IT leaders at the NextDC S3 data centre in Artarmon, Sydney. We have a strong speaker lineup with panel discussions on scaling AI, model and service selection, and data and AI security and privacy. If you're interested in joining the event, register now via our Events tab on IT News. Thanks to NextDC, Brennan and Area for sponsoring our 2025 State of Data and AI report and event. Hello and welcome to the IT News podcast. Our guest this fortnight is SA Power Networks Head of Cybersecurity and IT Resilience, Nathan Morelli. Our conversation is broad-ranging, but is anchored in a 5-year cybersecurity strategy prepared and published by the organisation a couple of months ago, with a roadmap that is set to be updated annually. We explore what's changed compared to the previous 5 years, and dig into some areas of activity, including identity and access management and cloud security.
As a regulated entity, we have to go to the energy regulator, do a business case for a price reset process. Every 5 years, we have to do that. The previous 5 years' work was based upon the business case that was presented to the regulator 6 odd years ago before I started, and that was the work we've been doing up until then. Was that a formal strategy? No, that was a set of uplift work that mostly aligned to Australian energy sector cybersecurity framework, security profile levels. What we did this year, we have to do the same thing. But what we wanted to present what we did in that 5-year business case and the justification and the risk-based approach we took to that forms a really good strategy. It's one of the most detailed justifications of funding in cybersecurity I've ever seen. You go through a very detailed process, you get economists involved. There's a lot to it. So we didn't want to waste that. And the team was incredibly proud of what they achieved through that price reset business case. And the feedback we got from the regulator was really positive. The 75, 80 odd pages in the detailed business case doesn't present well externally. It doesn't present well internally. It doesn't give our team something to hold on to and observe and say, hey, I'm a part of this journey. This is what we're doing. This is the roadmap for it. And this is the why. So that's how the strategy became a strategy. We should have always had a strategy. We always just fell back on a business case and a set of outcomes that was within that, but it was never formally presented as a strategy.
It felt like you made moves towards having the strategy with the annual cybersecurity reviews that you published. We're stepping towards this presentation, I guess, of the regulated information.
The annual reports is something that we got a lot of positive feedback on, and it's something that really helped our team have a role to play in the cybersecurity communities. We want the same with the strategy. And the strategy is all public information because it's based on that reset business case. So we have to publish publicly. The regulator makes that happen. So why not do both? Why not make it a really presentable document at the same time? We want to do the yearly update to it as well so people can see how it's evolved, see how we've had to change it as well, because cybersecurity, you can set a 12, 18-month roadmap, and we're really good at that internally. It changes a lot. So a 5-year strategy is going to change even more. The high-level concepts will be the same around what cybersecurity risks are. They haven't really changed fundamentally. We know we'll have to change. If not only do we have threats, but we have changes to risk, we have changes to strategy as well. So we're already at this point in time now where if we had our time again, there would be a different ordering in the roadmap. We're already adjusting that roadmap. So we want to be able to go back out in a year's time and adjust it and say, this is what we changed over the last year, and do that as part of that annual reporting. So it just does fall into this nice loop of being collaborative and externally communicating our journey as well.
When you look at the 12 key initiatives in the cybersecurity strategy, would they have changed dramatically since the previous 5 years if you'd done a similar document, or would these have been fairly similar cutting across the past decade? I'm interested to see what similarities or differences there would be between the past 5 years and this 5 years.
We go back 5, 6 years, we're all very heavily focused on improving our operational capabilities, really focused on endpoint and that evolution from traditional antivirus to now what we know as endpoint detection and response, managed detection and response. And the trend was outsource your operational capability and try and have less Splunk engineers in your team. So go back 5 years, that's what we were focusing on, how we insourced our SOC, how we built internal capability, and how we better refined endpoint detection, and how that moved into a behavioral analysis phase of SIEMs. And that's really what we did focus on in the first 3 to 4 years of my tenure here at SA Power Networks. And along the way, we learned it all starts with identity. We all had that moment in time of just, we need to fix identity. So the second half of that business case, we shifted our priorities to focus on identity. Identity probably wasn't really well embedded as a core cybersecurity capability then. So we moved that team into our team. And that's probably one of the things that we actually starts with identity. So that's really upfront in the next 5 years of strategy work. Access controls, making sure that you're moving into point in time based access not only for privilege, but for normal users as well. A lot more focus on that in the future. Endpoint detection is still there. What files run on a computer is still incredibly important to minimize blast radius during an incident. So having great people on board is always going to be important. Having well-trained people that are well exercised, always important, was important in the last 5 years, will be important in the next 5 years. We didn't really have the maturity as an organization in the last 5 years to think about SASE and cloud-based networking. We weren't really there yet. And the visibility that gives you of an endpoint, plus the controls, plus that secure remote access and the productivity that comes from that as well. So off-net access, we didn't have a good handle on. If you weren't in the office, we didn't really know what you were doing. And that was something we didn't really focus on in the early period of the last 5 years, but something we're really focused on now and are really focused on in the next 2 years to deliver that really well and make sure we're integrating that into processes and people are getting a really good productivity outcome, but they're doing it in a really secure manner. And then you start playing in BYOD into that and how you manage all devices that are accessing your network. And that's something that we, again, wasn't in the last 5 years, but will be in the next 5 years. Every device needs just as much focus. It's something we're learning through incidents. Data loss prevention is also something we're learning through incidents, something that we'll be focused on in the next 5 years as well.
There's a few things to unpack there. Going back to the BYOD thing, obviously the first 5 years you'd focused on endpoint protection for the stuff that you owned and managed. How much BYOD is there in an environment like, say, power networks?
There are a lot of BYOD, and there's a few use cases where an Android fleet, that's our choice. People want an iPhone. You've got some limited data access on that, but we don't manage it. So that's a BYOD. That's one use case. We have external contractors who come in for a period of time, maybe 3 months. We give them productivity tool access for a period of time. That's all they might need, but that is still considered a BYOD because it's accessing our data. Other instances is where we have, I call them tool of trades. They are specific devices that are an engineer or someone who goes out to a lot of our sites. They need specific tools on that device to access older infrastructure. Or I only need the previous version of, I've got to have Windows 10, I've got to have it patched only to this level because that is the only certified way to access that device. So they become unmanaged devices, which effectively become unmanaged BYOD. They're just terms that we throw around in the group, but they're basically the same. They're devices that we don't get the right visibility of, which means we can't control them. Blast radius, information disclosure, all of those things are at high risk in those particular sets of devices. So got a really good handle on our managed devices now, great controls, great segregation, privilege access is fixed. How do we apply that to our unmanaged devices or those BYODs now as well? That's what we're shifting into. I feel like we're a bit late to that process, but I also talk to peers who are like, we've still got 10, 15% of endpoints that we don't control properly. So I don't know where we are in terms of our competitors, but about in the middle.
One thing I wanted to pick up on was you were talking about the transition of identity responsibility internally. Do you want to just explain that a little bit?
Yeah, something we talk about a lot. We try and maintain a really good separation of digital identity, governance, detection, response around potential risk within the identity, and also the doing. We have a lot of great automation in place. We run really good governance tools in SailPoint and Ping and Active Directory, of course. But we don't do the Active Directoring. We try and automate as much of that role allocation, role governance process as we can. But we also have to decentralize a lot of access management out to those who know the data the best and who should access the data the best. So that comes to your democratization of SharePoint as well. Like people who are setting up SharePoint sites, they know who needs to access the best, but all we can do is govern and educate. It's a fine line of who owns what, where does information management sit, where does digital identity sit, and how do they interact and engage? So it's something that we're really trying to sort out over the next 6, 12, 18 months is what's the RACI? Where do we play a good role? Where do we not play a good role? How do we get that sorted out? We're in the middle of it all at the moment. And I speak to some of my peers about it and they're all in the same spot because we all deal with the data loss incident. It's like, who gave that access? Did they have the rights to give that access? Did they have the right education to give that access? And were we informed enough that we could detect anomalies, detect exfiltration? Did we know that wasn't a normal process? That's the world we're in at the moment. We've got about 12, 18 months of work that we planned originally. If you look at the roadmap and the strategy, we pushed it into the second half of the strategy. We're bringing it way forward because we've experienced some incidents recently in it. So in a risk and threat-based approach, that's what we've got to do. We've got to shuffle around initiatives based upon incidents and what we see.
How granularly are you thinking about role-based access control?
In an organisation our size that ebbs and flows of people a lot in our organisation as well, they move between roles pretty frequently. So we really want to focus on understanding what a core role should have access to the majority of the time. And let's just fix that again. Let's get back to that 80-20. We're comfortable with the 80% of that role is right now. We're comfortable, well aware that it's not right now. So let's bring it back to norm, bring it back to understanding that we're almost there, and then work on those outliers after that. It's how we approached Our operational capability, how we approach our threats through our organization is to get to the 80-20 so we can better understand the outliers rather than just being lost in too much noise.
Third area that you touched on earlier was around some information security related to cloud storage as well. So do you want to just talk a little bit about what your thinking is in that area?
We've recently become a Wiz customer, and we're really looking forward to some of the visibility that that tool gives us. We know that we've got a few more of the advanced or modern development approaches in our cloud environments now. So we need modern tools to identify where potential risk might be, and we're leaning into the Wiz software toolset for that. We also know that developers need better support from us in terms of building up a better, not set of tools, but a better set of principles for them to follow, and how we will go about helping them identify where they might not have followed those principles and where they can self-fix, self-improve, rather than relying upon us towards the end of a development project, implementation stage or a pre-stage to do our own testing then. Like, we really want to learn a lot more from them. Modern software development houses which shift left, give developers the tool sets to identify their own potential vulnerabilities and fix it themselves. We want to be doing a lot more of that, give them the right guardrails. In the last 18 months, we've only started doing our own in-house proper modern development. It's allowed them to do that so that we get to this point where we understand good process and then how to add security into it as well. So not 5 years behind, but we're 18 months behind. I think that's probably where that cloud security comes from. We're big as your shops. We don't do a lot of infrastructure as code yet, but we're leaning into that. Some of those more modern hardware, scale up, scale down processes. Again, good principles, good process. Support those teams to take innovative approaches. What are innovative for us? I understand the rest of the industry has probably been doing it a lot longer, but they are innovative for us.
So a combination of guardrails embedded into the CI/CD and visibility on your side as well with the new tooling.
Yeah, and sometimes you do have to allow the tool to guide us on that, especially because we're not as mature as other organizations and we haven't had that time to develop people's skill sets either. So it's traditionally not the right way to do it, but Wiz is a really good tool at it and the developers love it. Our peers love it. All right, we'll do a little bit of a tool and learn the journey process.
Is there stuff natively in Azure you're able to
Some of it, yeah. But again, it don't really have the skills to understand it. We were finding that what we were using natively in Azure wasn't as intuitive, wasn't as well presented back to us, didn't have the risk-based approach to it. And we're a big attack path kind of team. We like that approach of attack paths and where is your highest risk assets and what is the quickest way to get to them. Some of the work we've been doing in Wiz is around that attack path, and that's just not natively available in Azure. Some of the other APIs that we use in CrowdStrike and their identity protection tool, we're trying to use them again in Wiz. More of the more open, accessible API-based tools are a bit better at that as well.
Over the past year, or maybe even over the previous 5 years, what is one or two of the most impactful things that have happened in your domain that you've been able to bring about, uplifting security capability or posture?
I think what we've done really well is build business context into our operational capability, and that is purely incident detection and response. When you better understand the business, better understand outliers, when you combine business context along with threat, you are able to give your teams an understanding of how they're going to get attacked. Put that out through the organization, you can identify outliers better because you understand better what your business does. You don't get that in outsourced capability. So I think that's what we've really done in the last 5 years is threat-led, proactive, identifying incidents earlier. And then we've done probably really well in the last 18 months is then automate the automatable, low impact, low risk, automate it. If you've done something yourself 3 times in a week, you should probably be automating it. Like key principles for our operational capability and identity management now as well. Learning that it's okay to let an automation play out because 99 times out of 100, you're not going to impact an end user. Okay, be available, be ready for the 1 out of 100, but the 99, you just saved yourself a minimum of 99 minutes of investigation. So really allowing them that capability, flexibility, or the confidence to say, look, we're going to automate this. We'll deal with the applications if it goes wrong. That's freed up their time to then do better threat hunting. When you do better threat hunting, you're putting in some really specific, really focused, really low and slow played attacks against our infrastructure that we never would have found if we didn't understand our threat, understand how they're going to attack us, free up time through automation. It's the ability to find the low and slow, the needles in the haystack, the multiple haystacks and the one needle. Those incidents that we managed last year around insider threat, around feeding attacks on our external infrastructure, they wouldn't have been found if it wasn't for that 5 years of focused work on consolidating what our systems do, giving them the ability to find stuff. So the highlights of last year for me was the team were able to find some really advanced attacks against us that they never would have had the time to do if we kept doing things the way we were.
In terms of getting that business context, so you've talked about some of the threat hunting stuff there.
Yep.
But the outlier stuff, for example, does your team go and shadow some of these or teams out in the business to try and bring some of that knowledge in?
It's actually allowing my teams to pick up the phone and ask somebody, why are you doing it that way? I learn a lot through that process. Do a lot of ride-alongs as a team, so we know how people should be using their devices and how they connect to our network, and they might move through travel. Why are you connecting from this location, then this location? What is it about your job that's different? It makes it seem abnormal to us. We fixed our overseas travel process as well, so we got better notification of when people were supposed to be overseas, which then helps us detect anomalies in that. There are ways threat actors get around that, but again, get rid of the noise. You can see what could potentially be a malicious connection, or what is an abnormal connection, or what is an impossible travel isn't impossible because it was the way that the VPN was configured or their personal use of a VPN or whatever. Understanding what is abnormal, education gives you the ability to hunt better.
That's the episode for this fortnight. Stay tuned for the next episode. And for all the latest headlines and happenings in Australian technology news, head over to itnews.com.au.